We often believe that the choices we make are purely logical. We tell ourselves that we weigh the pros and cons, assess the facts, and then decide. But if we look closely, almost every decision is first filtered through how we feel in that exact moment. Think about it. When we are tired, we make different choices than when we are energized. When we are hopeful, we take risks we would never take when we are afraid. Emotion sets the stage long before reason enters the room. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path requires courage, the other feels safer. If fear dominates, the logical choice will always lean toward protection. If excitement dominates, the same brain will interpret risk as opportunity. The external situation doesn't change, but the internal emotion reshapes how we see it. Decisions aren't simply about circumstances, they are about the state of mind we bring into those circumstances. Consider a simple example. Shopping when you're hungry. Suddenly, everything looks good and impulse wins. It's not that logic disappears, but hunger amplifies desire and minimizes restraint. The same principle applies to leadership, career moves, relationships. When emotions intensify, they bend logic to fit their direction. Emotions also dictate the timing of our decisions. Anger rushes us into quick reactions, often regretted later. Calmness allows space to evaluate. Excitement accelerates, yes. Doubt delays it. If you think about your most important life choices, you'll see that emotions didn't just color them, they steered them. What's powerful to notice is that emotions don't ask for permission. They rise, they influence, and they push. Unless we recognize their role, we will believe we are making clear-headed decisions when, in truth, we are simply following our current emotional compass. This is why the same person can make two completely different choices in nearly identical situations, because their emotional lens was different each time. The brain is wired to justify what the heart feels. Once emotion leads, logic follows, but not as a guide, as a lawyer. Logic steps in not to choose, but to defend the choice already made by emotion. That's why someone in love can rationalize the irrational, or why someone in fear can argue against an opportunity that makes perfect sense. The decision isn't born in logic, it's born in emotion, and logic builds the explanation. This connection between emotion and decision is not a weakness. It's human design. Emotions are signals guiding us toward what matters. But when left unchecked, they become dictators, narrowing perspective and limiting possibility. A decision made in frustration rarely looks wise when frustration fades. A decision made in clarity often continues to stand even when circumstances shift. If emotions lead, results follow. When anger leads, the result is conflict. When fear leads, the result is retreat. When gratitude leads, the result is connection. When focus leads, the result is progress. The quality of the result is inseparable from the quality of the emotion that shaped the decision. We like to believe that success is the product of rational thinking, that if we analyze, strategize, and plan correctly, the outcome will take care of itself. But if that were true, then the smartest people in every room would always be the most successful. And we know that's not the case. Success doesn't go to the one who knows the most. It goes to the one who stays in the game the longest, who adapts when logic says quit, who finds energy when logic says stop. Logic is good at setting direction. It can map the path, calculate risks, and outline the steps. But once the path gets hard, once obstacles appear, it's not logic that keeps someone moving. It's emotion. It's the burning desire to prove something, the deep sense of responsibility to others, the vision of what's possible that keeps them climbing even when the numbers don't add up. Logic explains why not. Emotion insists on why yes. Think of persistence. Logic looks at the odds and says, the probability is low. Emotion looks at the purpose and says, it's worth it anyway. Every great invention, every movement, every breakthrough came not from logic alone, but from the stubborn refusal to accept what logic called impossible. Emotion stretches us beyond probability into possibility. Focus, too, is emotional at its core. Logic may remind you what's important, but emotion fuels your ability to resist distraction. You don't avoid temptation because a spreadsheet told you so. You avoid it because you care deeply about the result you want. Emotion attaches value, and where value lies, focus follows. Without emotional investment, logic is just data, and data doesn't hold attention. Resilience is perhaps the clearest example. When everything falls apart, logic offers reasons to let go. It points out the cost, the failure, the evidence that it won't work. Yet resilience is born from something deeper. The love of a dream, the loyalty to a cause, the pride of identity. These emotional anchors hold us steady when reason alone would have walked away. Even in leadership, logic isn't enough. People don't follow leaders because of perfect plans. They follow leaders because of belief, conviction, and trust. These are not logical equations, they are emotional bonds. A leader can have the sharpest strategy in the world, but if they cannot move emotions, the strategy will sit untouched on paper. We sometimes mistake emotion as the opposite of intelligence. But emotion is the fuel that makes intelligence usable. Knowledge without passion gathers dust. Strategy without belief never sees action. It is the merging of logic and emotion that creates momentum. But if one must lead, it is emotion. Because without it, logic has no drive to act. The truth is, logic helps us decide what to do, but emotion decides whether we actually do it. Logic outlines the plan, but emotion carries it across the finish line. Logic calculates the steps, but emotion takes the steps when they get heavy. Logic draws the map, but emotion makes the journey. We often underestimate the power of emotions by thinking they live only inside us. But emotions are not private, they leak. The way we feel doesn't stay hidden, it shows up in our tone, our body language, our choices. When frustration builds, it sharpens our words. When anger rises, it narrows our vision. When fear lingers, it slows our steps. These emotions don't just color our experience, they alter the experience of those around us. Frustration, for example, doesn't just make us feel stuck, it changes how others perceive us. A frustrated leader can discourage a team without meaning to. A frustrated parent can shut down a child's confidence without realizing it. The emotion may feel personal, but its effects are collective. One person's unchecked frustration can ripple outward and stall progress for many. Anger left uncontrolled has an even sharper edge. It makes us reactive rather than responsive. It turns simple disagreements into lasting divides. It blinds us to nuance and forces us into extremes, right or wrong, win or lose. In the heat of anger, words are spoken that logic would never approve, yet once spoken, they can't be taken back. The cost isn't just the moment, it's the relationship that might never fully recover. Fear, though quieter, is just as powerful. When fear dictates decisions, opportunities shrink. The job not applied for, the risk not taken, the conversation avoided, all become silent costs. On the outside, life may look calm, but inside, fear keeps potential locked away. What seems like a safe choice in the moment often becomes regret in the future. These emotions don't only affect people, they shape results. A team working under a frustrated leader delivers less. A business run by fear misses innovation. A relationship strained by anger loses intimacy. Results aren't ruined by lack of knowledge or resources nearly as often as they are ruined by emotions left unchecked. The hidden cost is not measured in dollars, but in lost trust, lost time, lost opportunity. Uncontrolled emotions also cloud judgment. Frustration makes problems look bigger than they are. Anger makes people look like enemies rather than partners. Fear makes challenges look impossible instead of difficult. When judgment is distorted, choices follow the distortion. And over time, the pattern of poor choices accumulates into poor outcomes. What makes the cost of uncontrolled emotion so dangerous is that it often goes unnoticed. We see the argument, but not the doors it closed. We see the hesitation, but not the opportunities it missed. We see the outburst, but not the respect it eroded. By the time we recognize the cost, it is often years later, when the gap between what could have been and what is has grown wide. The truth is, emotions are meant to guide, not govern. Left uncontrolled, they don't just shape how we feel in the moment. They shape the results of our lives. They leave a trail, sometimes visible, sometimes invisible, but always real. And while the immediate effects may fade, the hidden costs often remain long after the emotion itself has passed. For much of our lives, we are taught to see emotions as problems to control or eliminate. Anger is labeled bad, fear is called weakness, sadness is treated as something to hide. But emotions are not enemies to be fought. They are signals, bursts of energy designed to move us. The challenge is not whether we feel them, but whether we allow them to guide us recklessly or channel them purposefully. Every emotion carries energy. Anger carries intensity, fear carries caution, joy carries momentum. Even sadness carries depth and reflection. To suppress these emotions is to suppress the energy they bring. The more we fight them, the more they build, often erupting at the worst times. Suppression doesn't lead to strength, it leads to eruption. The key is to see emotions as fuel. Anger can destroy relationships if left uncontrolled, but the same anger, when channeled, becomes determination to change what feels unjust. Fear can paralyze, but the same fear, reframed, becomes preparation and focus. Sadness can isolate, but sadness honored can create empathy and connection. Emotions only become destructive when they are denied the right direction. Great performers, leaders, and creators don't avoid emotion, they harness it. Athletes turn nervousness into readiness. Speakers turn fear into energy for their audience. Entrepreneurs turn frustration into innovation. What looks like confidence on the outside is often not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of its channel. Channeling emotions requires awareness. To pause and ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Where can I direct this energy? That question turns an impulse into a choice. Instead of letting the emotion dictate the outcome, we use its energy as a resource. The emotion doesn't disappear, it transforms. We often admire resilience in people, but resilience is not the absence of emotional struggle. It is the redirection of emotional energy. Pain becomes fuel for growth. Fear becomes fuel for preparation. Doubt becomes fuel for learning. The difference between breaking down and breaking through is how the energy of emotion is used. When we reframe emotions as energy, we stop fearing them. Instead of resisting anger, we look for its message. Instead of avoiding fear, we look for its warning. Instead of burying sadness, we look for its wisdom. Emotions stop being things to hide and start being tools to build. They become a resource, not a liability. The most successful people are not those who feel the least, but those who channel the most. They don't waste energy suppressing emotion, they redirect it toward vision, effort, and creation. The same fire that burns can also light the path. The difference is not in the emotion itself, but in how it is used. In a world that moves quickly, our instincts often push us to move just as fast. Someone says something we don't like, and words are out of our mouth before we've even thought them through. A challenge appears and we react before considering alternatives. The pause, though small, is what separates impulse from intention. It is the thin line between reacting to emotion and responding with clarity. The pause is powerful because it interrupts momentum. Emotions gather speed quickly. Anger escalates, fear amplifies, excitement rushes forward. A pause slows that momentum, creating space between feeling and action. That space is where choice lies. Without it, we are passengers of our impulses. With it, we become drivers of our behavior. Think about an email written in frustration. Sent instantly, it can damage trust, create conflict, or close doors. Paused, even for a few minutes, it gives room for reflection, for softening words, for considering impact. The difference between the two is not the emotion felt, but the presence of the pause. The pause doesn't eliminate emotion, it acknowledges it. By stopping for a moment, we give ourselves a chance to name the feeling rather than be consumed by it. Naming an emotion, anger, fear, doubt, diminishes its control. It shifts the experience from "I am angry" to "I am feeling anger." That subtle shift creates separation, which allows for wiser response. Pausing also strengthens perspective. In the heat of the moment, emotions make problems look bigger and options look smaller. A pause lets logic catch up to emotion. It allows us to ask, what outcome do I want here? What response will serve me best? Suddenly, what felt like only one option opens to many. The power of pause is not about inaction. It's about intentional action. It's the discipline to wait long enough for wisdom to join the conversation. Leaders who pause before reacting earn trust because their responses feel steady, not erratic. Individuals who pause in conflict preserve relationships because they respond with clarity instead of aggression. The pause is also a form of control. Not control over others, but over ourselves. It proves that while we cannot always control what we feel, we can control what we do with what we feel. That kind of control builds confidence because it shifts power from the emotion itself to the person experiencing it. When we practice pausing consistently, it becomes second nature. What once felt like an uncontrollable reaction becomes a chosen response. The pause doesn't remove the human experience of emotion. It refines it. It allows us to use emotion as information rather than letting it dictate behavior. It turns moments of weakness into moments of strength. When it comes to mastering emotions, many people imagine a dramatic breakthrough moment, one great act of control where they finally conquer anger, fear, or doubt. But emotional mastery doesn't come from a single victory. It comes from repeated discipline, practice day after day. The real power lies not in intensity, but in consistency. One moment of calm in the middle of chaos is helpful, but if it happens only once, it doesn't change much. True growth is when calm becomes the pattern, not the exception. Just like physical strength isn't built in one workout, emotional strength isn't built in one moment of restraint. It's built in the daily practice of managing impulses, choosing responses, and staying steady. Consistency compounds. Every time we choose patience over anger, the habit of patience grows stronger. Every time we face fear instead of running from it, courage becomes more natural. Every time we choose focus over distraction, clarity sharpens. These small, consistent choices build momentum, and over time they create character. Intensity, on the other hand, fades. We can have a surge of willpower, but once the emotion passes, the surge disappears. Intensity can carry us through a single challenge, but consistency carries us through life. Emotional discipline isn't measured by how we act once, it's measured by how we act repeatedly, especially when no one is watching. Think of it like training the mind. If we only practice control when life is easy, we won't be ready when life is hard. But if we practice consistency, pausing daily, reframing emotions regularly, reflecting often, then when the storm comes, our emotional discipline is automatic. It's no longer a performance, it's who we are. Consistency also builds trust. People around us feel safe not because we never lose our temper once, but because they know we won't lose it often. They trust leaders, friends, and partners whose emotions don't swing wildly from day to day. That steady presence creates reliability, and reliability creates influence. What's important to remember is that consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. We will fail at times, but what matters is returning again and again to the discipline of control. Over time, the failures become fewer, the recoveries faster, and the discipline stronger. The compounding effect works in our favor as long as we keep showing up. Mastering emotions, then, is not a dramatic battle to be won once. It's a practice to be lived daily. Each consistent act of control becomes a brick, and those bricks build the foundation for results that last. Intensity may inspire, but consistency transforms. When we think about leadership, we often imagine intelligence, vision, or strategy as the key traits. But intelligence alone doesn't inspire people, and vision alone doesn't hold teams together. People don't follow the smartest person in the room, they follow the one who manages emotions with clarity and steadiness. Emotional mastery is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of leadership. A leader's emotions set the tone for everyone else. If the leader panics, the team panics. If the leader stays calm, the team steadies itself. The emotional state of one person can ripple across dozens, even hundreds. Leaders don't just manage tasks, they manage energy. The way they handle frustration, fear, or uncertainty becomes a silent example for everyone watching. Think about times of crisis. In those moments, facts are important, but emotions matter even more. People look not just for answers, but for reassurance. They don't remember every detail of what was said, but they remember how they felt in the presence of their leader. Steady emotions create a sense of safety, and safety creates the courage to keep moving forward. Emotional mastery also prevents conflict from escalating. Leaders face disagreements, resistance, and criticism regularly. If they meet anger with anger, the situation multiplies. If they meet it with composure, they diffuse it. It's not that leaders avoid emotion, but that they learn to channel it in a way that creates clarity instead of confusion. The most powerful leaders are not the ones who never feel doubt or fear. They are the ones who acknowledge those emotions without letting them control their behavior. They show vulnerability honestly, but they do not collapse under it. This balance, human but steady, honest but composed, makes others feel they can rely on them no matter what. Leadership is less about being right and more about being consistent. Teams don't need perfection, they need predictability. They need to know that their leader won't explode under pressure or withdraw in silence when things get tough. That steadiness builds confidence, and confidence fuels collective effort. Emotional mastery in leadership also means creating space for others to manage their own emotions. When a leader models control, others learn to mirror it. When a leader listens with calm presence, others feel safe enough to express themselves without fear. In this way, emotional mastery multiplies. It doesn't just stabilize the leader, it stabilizes the culture. In the end, leadership through emotional mastery isn't about being the smartest, fastest, or most charismatic. It's about being the anchor in the storm, the one who steadies the ship when waters rise. People don't follow because of knowledge alone. They follow because they trust the emotional steadiness of the person leading them. Every result we create in life begins not with action, but with state. How we feel in the moment directly influences how we think, how we act, and what outcome we produce. The outer world is often nothing more than a reflection of the inner world. A chaotic state creates chaotic results. A focused state creates focused results. When our emotional state is unstable, our actions follow the same pattern. If we approach work with anxiety, our decisions will be rushed. If we approach conversations with resentment, our words will carry an edge. If we approach challenges with doubt, our efforts will be half-hearted. The state we carry into the moment becomes the quality of the moment itself. On the other hand, when our state is steady and intentional, results transform. A calm mind solves problems more effectively. A hopeful outlook sees possibilities others overlook. A grateful heart attracts cooperation instead of resistance. By shifting the state first, we naturally shift the result that follows. This is why two people with the same skills can produce completely different outcomes. It isn't talent that separates them, it's state. One walks into the room carrying stress and doors close. The other walks in carrying confidence and doors open. The external difference is subtle, but the internal difference is profound. Our state is also contagious. Others respond to the energy we bring before they respond to the words we speak. A leader in a panic state spreads panic. A parent in a calm state spreads calm. A teammate in a motivated state spreads motivation. Results don't happen in isolation. They emerge from the collective state shaped by each individual. The mistake many make is trying to fix results without addressing state. They push harder, demand more, or chase new strategies while still carrying frustration, fear, or doubt. The result doesn't change because the state doesn't change. The real work is not in the outcome. It is in mastering the emotional state that creates the outcome. Mastering state begins with awareness. Noticing when we are tense, distracted, or reactive is the first step. From there, we can reset through breathing, reflection, reframing, or simply pausing. The shift may be small, but even small adjustments in state create ripple effects in performance and results. When we align state with intention, calm for clarity, focus for progress, optimism for resilience, results align naturally. Success then is not forced, it is expressed. The outer outcome becomes the natural mirror of the inner condition. By mastering state, we don't chase results, they flow from who we are in the moment we act.